How are you?
There he is. All right, Gary, welcome. Welcome to EO's Global Leadership Conference. We're so happy to have you. How are you, my friend?
I'm extremely well. I'm flattered. It's great to see Ariana. You know, it's funny. When I started making content back in 2008, I talked a lot about work ethic, hustle, and it spoke to a controllable asset. But I just want to be, which will be confusing to some that follow me, because unfortunately, this part of my message never really landed. But I'm a huge believer in sleep and many other things that Ariana pushes. So it was nice to catch the tail end of hers. And I'm excited to be here with everybody.
Fantastic. Now, Gary, I want to set the stage here just a moment. I know you know a lot about EO. You're very familiar with this crowd, but we have a code in EO, a culture, if you will, of the idea of 5%. So if you imagine that you share 90% of your life publicly with the entire world, well, you have those 5% on the fringes on each side, the 5% really bad stuff that you keep close to this chest, and the 5% really, really good stuff that you might not share. That's what we focus on here in EO. So Gary, will you make a pact with me here, and will you go 5% with me in this conversation?
Can I give you 4%? Can I keep a little something to myself? But yes, I'm happy to. And I think it's a tremendous framework, because I think you're right. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here. And I think there's a huge responsibility when you've been flattered and gifted with the opportunity. I mean, when I think about who's watching this on the other side, these are it blows my mind that I'm at the place in my life where I could be an important speaker to an event like this. I'm very humbled by that. And I will take on that incredible, flattering statement and try to bring as much values here as possible and go 5% with you.
We appreciate that, Gary. Thank you so much. We can see Gary on YouTube and Instagram, but EO, we're going to get that 5%. You heard it here first. So, Gary, we're going to dive right in. We're talking about energy. And so If you were starting today, let's say you were scaling your dad's business like you did. We know your origin story, took it from 3 million to 65 million. And you chose at that time to focus your energy on YouTube. I think that's a big part of your origin story, to have that intuition. If it were today, you were young Gary today, tasked with the same thing to scale your dad's business, where would you be focusing your energy?
LinkedIn, because the thing that I did really well and continue to do really well, to be honest with you, is I didn't have money. My dad's store was doing $3.6 million in revenue on 10% gross profit, my friend. There was zero money. My advertising budget was like $10,000. So I had to win on organic free reach. And in 1997, 1998, 1999, that was email. So every person that went into the liquor store, I got their email address and then I emailed them. Then it was Google AdWords when they were 5 cents a click. So even though I didn't have a lot of money, the ROI was absurd. Then, to your point, years later, it was YouTube and organic social content. Today, the arbitrage sits in a couple places. One, I probably would have done the same exact thing that I did then, start a YouTube and a podcast today. Actually, let me be even more contemporary. If I walked in the store today, day one, I'd probably do 7 hours of Clubhouse every day. Wine talk, Clubhouse, because I'd be able to get organic awareness, brand awareness from something that didn't cost me money. I would be doing TikTok, even though I knew it's skewed young. I know 21 to 40 is much bigger on the platform, and you can go viral much easier on TikTok than you can on Facebook and Instagram and things of that nature. I answered quickly on LinkedIn. I think for a lot of people here, they have no idea how intense LinkedIn social organic is, and for a lot of their B2B and B2C businesses. So I'd go there. Those would be the opening places. I'd probably launch an NFT project because it's very low cost and very high PR and community building. So Spotify ads, there's self-serve Spotify ads that just launched that are just dollars, pennies on the dollar for so for everybody who's listening, just so you know, I'm a pretty simple dude. My deep skill set that has given me a lot of what's happened for me is attention arbitrage. Understanding where the consumer's attention is that most people don't see yet, going there first like a real estate developer, and building a really, really great execution creatively to extract awareness to build brand.
Got it. All right. So LinkedIn, Clubhouse, TikTok, Spotify ads, love it. Go where the attention is lower value now, so you can capitalize on the growth of it.
Correct. That the buy is better than the alternatives.
Understood. All right. So we've had tons of questions for you, Gary, and we filtered it down. We're actually going to have a couple of EO members come up live and ask you their questions. And first we have Shivani. Shivani, if you could come on and ask Gary your question.
Hey, Gary, my name's Shivani. My question was that I've got one really successful business and I'm trying to get another one started.
I hear you, Shivani.
Hey. Oh, great. I can hear you too.
We're good. Let's do it again.
Yeah. So I've got one really successful business and the other one kind of died a little bit through COVID. And my question was, when you're running one really successful business, you know, and give that 100% rather than starting off some of the others, if you're starting a second business, how do you manage your focus and your time and your energy so that you can run both things really successfully?
Well, I think that I think it comes down to a couple things. Are you trying to maximize for happiness? Are you trying to maximize for short term, or are you trying to maximize for long term financial? So let me give you an example. I have many businesses that I start what I would call micro businesses, not the core 80%, but some of the other things, you know, when it starts. And I've had many of them fail and many of them succeed. But all of them were wins for me, Shivani, because I needed them for my creative entrepreneurial juices. Ironically, I needed the side business that maybe didn't work because I was better at my core business because I was getting my creative juices out somewhere else. And nobody talks about that. Sorry, we got some New York City love going on here. So Shivani, what's interesting is I needed those other businesses. You may be surprised, and many others listening right now may be surprised. You might lose some money on business number 2 and 3, but you actually might make more money on business number 1 because you needed the creative outlet. Otherwise, you would have been bored and sedated. And so, you know, I think this is one of my favorite questions in the world because I don't think we talk enough about us as creative people, us entrepreneurs. And I think sometimes so that's number 1. I'm asking you back, and you need to sleep on this, and everybody does, around this very complex nuance that I hear very little conversation around, which is it's almost okay if the other thing doesn't work because it made your number 1 thing work better. Number 2, the answer to your question in a more black and white way, not a gray way, because I like to live in the gray because that's where I think the answers are. In a gray way, in the black and white way, it's all about delegation. People are insecure about their delegation. They don't trust. They have an ego to think they do things best. They don't want to take a step backwards. They feel like somebody is trying to trick them. There's a lack of trust and a game of fear because I have a trillion businesses because I trust. And if that person lets me down or steals money from me, I replace them. I'm not scared. And so a lot of people don't win on their second business because they're unable to create delegation infrastructures. They need to be a micromanager out of fear or insecurity.
That's awesome. That creativity bit, I'll absolutely sleep on it. That makes so much sense.
And it's a weird one, right? Like nobody talks about that. Like I do, like when I can feel that I need another business, I just do it, even if it's not successful, because it really helps me on the things that pays the bills. I need that escapism. It's kind of like a little dessert. You can't eat well 100% of the time. You need a little snacky snack.
Yeah, and I think the diversity and having incomes in the future is going to become key too. So that's great, Gary. Thank you.
And you may lose on the micro on business number 2, but you might have an insight there that you bring back to business number 1, and then business number 3 does it. There's a lot there that people don't talk about collateral value. Everything's so binary. This business didn't do well, it did. That's just not how life works.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cheers.
Fantastic. Thank you for that wonderful question, Shivani. And Gary, your answer is refreshing because in so much business literature, we hear don't touch the shiny button, you know, just stay focused on one thing. So it's refreshing to hear you say that creativity is important.
COOs say that. And I'm a COO in my DNA too. COOs say stay focused. Teachers say stay focused. You know, operators, middle management says stay focused. Non-entrepreneurs say stay focused. Real purebred entrepreneurs understand the deep need of creativity.
100%, 100%. So a lot of our questions were focused around building a team and culture. You scaled your company really, really quickly. So what is the secret to scaling quickly, to make those quick hiring decisions, vetting people while ensuring that your company culture remains intact? How do you do that?
By understanding the following statement: hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. I'm gonna say it again because this has been a huge, I've said a lot of things in my career. I put out a lot of content. I've been blown away when I randomly said this somewhere and it just kind of like took off. And I mean, I get 40 emails a week about this. So I'll say it again. I am stunned by people's ego wrapped up in their ability to hire. People say they're perfectionists. What they're really saying is they're scared. People say that they this and that. It's all fear. I was gifted with incredible human intuition and EQ. And the amount of hiring mistakes that I have made in my 20 years is staggering. Hiring is guessing to the best of your ability. Firing is knowing. I've watched people not fire people that are bad for their culture because they were the ones that hired them, and they worry more about their own ego that they were wrong about the hire than the cancer that is being spread in their organization. It blows my mind. So I think that is the reason I've grown all my companies. You know, my dad's business went from 6 to 100 employees when I was 22 to 25 successfully. VaynerMedia, I came in, AJ was jamming the first couple of years. We went from 20 people to 240 people in 2 years. I've taken us from 700 to 1,500 people in the last 3 years. It's because you do the best you can. You are candorous on the truth of what's going on, good and bad in your company. And then you're a dictator around making sure that people who don't understand the kindness to each other. The way the boys and girls play with each other in my company is pretty much the only thing I care about. And so hiring is guessing, my friends. Firing is knowing. Fire cancer, try your best in hiring. But people like spend a year on process of hiring someone. When I let my company, in my culture, in my company, if I let them do their own thing, they're taking 7 weeks to hire someone. I'm like, I get mad at my C-suite. I'm like, I hired you in 4 minutes. The hell are you doing? Triple, double, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's politics, it's corporate, it's horseshit. Hiring is guessing, firing is knowing.
Love it, love it. So succinct and so accurate. So we have another EO member who's going to come up and ask you a question. We have Shahid Hassan from EO Lahore in Pakistan. Shahid, take it away with your question.
Real quick, Shahid, excuse me for a second. Someone wrote the classic hire slow, fire fast. I think it's hire fast, fire fast. Durr. And I'll give you a curveball. Promote fastest. One of the reasons I built a huge culture is when you are the other way, you know, it's like love, right? When somebody comes in for 4 months and they've got it, don't make them wait. Show them the money. Show them the cosign. Show them the high five. Hire fast, fire faster, promote fastest. I'm gonna make that fucking t-shirt. That's real shit right there.
Love it. I hope you guys are writing this down in your workbook. That is awesome. All right, Shahid, take it away.
Hi Gary, this is Shahid Hassan from Lahore, Pakistan. Big fan of your work. Well, we're in the business of housing real estate sector. As leader, it's our job to make sure that we look after our team. We train them, we motivate them, we challenge them, and look after them. But how far do we really have to go before giving up on them and moving to another resource. Because giving up is not just about you giving up on someone. It is you as a leader giving up on your first pick. How do you balance it out?
I love that you say that. So this was a real challenge for me because I love to rehabilitate. Oh, do I love a good project? I feel like I was gifted with all these emotional intelligence skills. I'm a psychiatrist at heart. It took me a while. Let me tell you what happens when you hold on too long. You're hurting the winners around that person. The biggest reason you have to be a little bit quicker on that firing is because you're hurting the people around that person. You're also creating entitlement, which has been a huge issue of mine as an operator because I've held on to people. So I'm less worried about, I don't hold at this point in my heart, oh, I failed, I wasn't able to fix them. You know what I mean? I give incredible effort. I give my entire heart. I'm incredibly patient. For as fast as I talk about fire faster, it doesn't mean that I fire so fast. We candor, we try to rehabilitate, but rest assured that everybody who's in that company is watching. And if you don't move quickly on poor talent, you will hurt your culture very much. Even if they're the people I've struggled with are the people that are not good performers, but are nice people. It breaks my heart. I'm not made for that part. But it will lead to entitlement and a huge vulnerability, and it will hurt the other winning players' morale.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Cheers.
Great question, Shahi. Thank you. We have another EO member who's actually met you before. Brian Davidson, if you'll come up and give Gary your question.
Years ago at Dreamforce, you did a small keynote in a conference room, and you stood outside the conference room and you thanked every single person on the way in, and you stood outside that conference room and you thanked every single person on the way out. You even answered one of my questions about the first business I started. Fucking disaster, but you gave me some great advice. And you taught me a really important lesson on gratitude that day. I wanted to ask, I find it really easy to show my clients gratitude because they're paying me, and obviously there's something in exchange there. And we have a lot of A players on our team, but I struggle to show my gratitude to them in a way that I feel is meaningful. So you just talked about promoting. We're a small team, so I don't know how to promote anyone. How do you show gratitude to your team?
I remember one thing I like to do is follow my team, especially when we were little. I followed all of them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram at the time, Twitter. The surprise and delight that you're paying attention is incredible, my friend. So how big is your team? 2, 3, 4, 5, 7? What do you got?
10.
10? Do you feel like you really know their interests outside of work?
All but one of them, yes.
Good. I think you should buy them a token of... What's that, brother?
The other one could be Batman. I don't know.
Fair enough. Some people are like that. I think you could do subtle little things. Sending a note and saying, good luck to the Redskins tonight on Thursday Night Football, or buying a Redskins jersey. Like, buying them 100 K-cups from their favorite coffee. Like, there's subtle little things that it's less about the tchotchke or the gift, and it's more that you're a tremendous listener and you actually give a shit to know. It's very easy to show gratitude, to your point, and thank you for sharing that, because I think people are really, I think people are cynical by nature, and I think that what's been great for my career is that I care more about the people that have actually interacted with me than the millions that see me on the internet. So the fact that you were there years ago and you just saw me do that, and that's not for shtick or spiel or strategy. I was just grateful people decided to choose my breakout room, and I was thankful. And there was a way for me to show gratitude. It was all I could do at that moment was thank them as they walked in and walked out. And so it's about listening, and it's about a little extra effort. And I think you can do I wish I had a company of 10, because all the little things I could do, buy them the pay-per-view for the UFC fight because I know they're a huge fan, and just hit them up, be like, hey, John, I picked up the bill on UFC tonight. You've been slaying it for last month. I hope you enjoy Friday night. By the way, I also picked you up a 30-pack. I noticed you love Coors Light. Shit beer, but fuck it. If you like it, I like it too. It's at your house. You know, like shit like that. You see what I mean? Humanity and listening and little tokens. God, it matters.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it.
What a fantastic question. And so Gary, kind of related to that, Joseph Frost asked us a question. He said, Gary, you've been a big proponent of the gig economy for years. What's your thought on the white collar gig economy, more specifically about fractional C-level work? What are your thoughts on that?
Fan. You know, it's like, it's almost hard to expand on. It's like, yes, like the world, my friends, let's make this statement right now. And by the way, I'm reading the chat, so I need feedback. I know it's delayed based on the reactions, but so everybody's watching, give me chatter, because I will make this talk better for you, because I'm always multitasking. By show of yes, no, or I get it in the chat right now, does everybody realize that if you're watching this right now, I'm going to be very meta. The fact that you are even in this, are watching this right now, know this to be true. Like, do you understand how fortunate and how much the world is your oyster? Do you actually understand back to gratitude? Like, do you understand in what rarefied air of opportunity and things that you could be, like, you're winning. Jeez, you're winning. So for me, when you realize that, what really ends up happening is you realize how much options we have. I mean, this is an unprecedented time of technology. The fact that we're even talking about gig fractionalization of C-suite, what a blessing. What a time to be alive. So I'm a big fan. I think companies are willing to hire it. I think a lot of people are gonna make a lot of money. I think that people are going to really win, and I'm happy for them. And the fact that people are open to like having somebody have 4 CMO jobs at the same time, or COO jobs, it's crazy. And I'm seeing it every day. I'm seeing it every day. And I appreciate all the yeses in here right now that are flowing through. Like, what a time to be alive. I'm a huge fan of the white collar gig game. And I hope that it's going to really help a lot of people here. And I don't think people realize how ahead of the game they are by even being somebody that even is part of this or is listening to this. I just don't think people realize what kind of rarefied air they're in.
Love it. Love it. So you're doubling down on the fractional C-suite stuff, and you see more of that in the future, I take it. I want to shift kind of to talk about social media posting. Don Williams asked a question that everybody with a pulse knows you're big on content, and you have this theory of posting like 63 or 100 pieces of content daily.
Yes.
You shared that several years ago. Now, what's your 2021 thinking on social media posts? What type of quantity are you talking about now? Is it the same, more?
As many as humanly, those were arbitrary numbers, my friend, but I wanted to use those numbers because I actually believe it. Like, I am actually putting out that much content. And I'm 15 hours a day running a major company, but I hired people to help me scale it. I believe there is nothing more important in building a brand in the world. And I believe there's nothing more important than brand. So you can imagine where my brain goes on this. There's nothing more important than brand. And now I'm about to tell you the single most important thing to do in brand building. It's called creative, made for the platforms that dominate people's attention. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, podcast. Like, I don't understand what people think are happening. Like, it's night as day, clear as day, excuse me. It's just unbelievably devastating to me that we have people here who spend money on all sorts of things, but not on making content for LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Twitter. It is the greatest gift of an opportunity for brand building in the history of time. It has leveled the playing field against the Coca-Colas and BMWs and the biggest companies in the world. And people continue to not to post because they're insecure about negative feedback or because they're lazy to learn it, so they're scared to spend money on it. It baffles my mind.
What do you say to somebody who might push back on that and say, well, I just don't have time to do it?
I think they're prioritizing dumb shit. I'm being dead serious. If you understand how business actually works, brand over everything. I don't care if you're a sales organization, B2B, brand will win. Like brand over everything. So when somebody says they don't have time, I say that they're picking the wrong thing to focus on. It's kind of like work-life balance. Like, don't tell me how to live my life. I won't tell you. Like, prioritize your family and your happiness. And whether that's an hour or 45 hours, whether that's, you work a 9 to 5 just for family or you're 9 to 7, like, it doesn't really matter. You're prioritizing. Like, prioritize brand over everything. Too many people focus on the micro when the macro is so clear.
Got it. Okay, so Marion says that you've mentioned that a company's biggest asset is its people, and you've even called yourself Chief Heart Officer of VaynerMedia. How feasible do you believe it is to scale a business with no employees and only freelancers or per-need contractors?
It's not my preference. I think you can do it. I don't think that's a company. I think that's an entrepreneur with a freelance network. But I believe that a company, which means you have employees, I think a entrepreneur with a freelance network is an incredibly efficient way to make money and really may fit the mold of many. But to me, that's not a company. That is a tremendously well executed, strategic, practical, often, execution of the opportunity in front of oneself. For a sense of clarification, I have a chief heart officer. Her name is Claude Silver. She's the most important person at Vayner. I do think of myself as an HR executive, but I do think you can build a very nice network of great freelancers if you treat them great. It's kind of the same game, but there are obviously very big differences. That leasing a car is different than owning a car. Renting an apartment is different than owning it. And the same thing with employees. And that's okay. I don't think one's right or wrong. I just think the cultures are different. I think you treat it different. I think babysitting your nieces and nephews is even different than taking care of your kids. It's just the way life is.
Right. Got it. All right. Raymond Cho has a question. As an entrepreneur, we keep trying, we keep hoping, we keep pushing to reach goal after goal. When does it all stop? Or when do we say it's enough?
For me, it never was that, because it stopped and started and was enough the second I got to play. So I don't define entrepreneurship the same way. My entrepreneurship, and by the way, I'm not right. We all get to define it in our own ways. I define entrepreneurship similar to playing a game. I don't have, I would like to buy the jets, but that's the game. The chase is the game, not the money or buying the jets. It's the chase. And so for me, I've never had that feeling that was just described, though I know 98% of entrepreneurs I come across do. I am in very rarefied air where literally the game of business is more fun to me than skiing. Hey, Gary, let's go to ski. I'd rather work on my business. Genuinely, not because I'm like a maniac or an idiot or care about money. It is more fun for me. And by the way, this was my life, my friend. Like lemonade stands were more fun than playing slip inside. Shoveling snow was more fun than building a snowman. Selling baseball cards was more fun than going to high school parties. Like, it's my life. By the way, I don't think it's right or wrong. I just believe the answer to this question is, if this whole fall in love with the process, never love what you do, never work a day in your life, like, it all sounds very foofy shit. It's real as fuck to me. Like, I don't have arbitrary goals like I need to make $1 million or this, like, it's not, and I would argue that if you can somehow find the business that makes you feel that way, it's like true love versus like a relationship. You know what I mean? And I think for everybody who's listening right now, the only thing that's close to the way I feel about work is garage sailing. I'm not kidding. The only thing, which is not kind of a game of work too, right? But the only thing I ever feel the same level of calmness, lack of anxiety, happiness, can't wait, is waking up for a garage sale and garage sailing all day long. I believe that most people have that around different things. Golf, skiing, many other, gardening comes to mind, many other things, right? The gym, I hate working out, but I do it. So I would love for people to really, really get caught up in what I just said, because there's something really there. Because I think some people might be able to tweak. I'll give you a good one. Can I give you something real? I think some people here should take their business, and this is now the 5%. Let me give you a real 5% answer. I think a lot of people on this call right now should actually do less revenue as a business, because the extra million actually tipped them to not like their business as much, because it made them have to do something else that they didn't do. So at 4 million, they loved it. But at 5 million, they're managing an extra person, or they've got to do this, or they got to do that, or they have a shitty client that shits on them all the time and gives them anxiety. I think a lot of people here should do 1 less million a year for 10x happiness. I think we've got to get out of money as a KPI. You got to be sustainable and pay your bills. But how do we get into loving the game? Loving it.
Man, I love what you just said. You completely described the situation that I've been through, trying to grow for the sake of growth and not loving it. So if I can rephrase what you said, you do it for sport, right? That's what keeps you going.
You know what else happens?
If I can hone in on that.
Real quick, I apologize. You know what else happens? Because I do it for sport, it also makes me very cordial to my competition. I want to destroy every agency in the world. Kill them. But when I see them in real life at events, a lot of people are very awkward or mean or off-putting to me, and I'm fascinated by that. I, on the other hand, love being gracious and giving daps and being like, yo, good win on that. I hate that you got it, And it's funny, when I watch sports as a fan, I'm mad as shit when the Knicks and Jets are giving daps to the other people after they beat our faces. I'm mad as shit. But I understand the athlete. They didn't try less. They just are doing it for sport. And one of the reasons that I think that I want to destroy all my competition, but at the same token, cheer for them, care about their families, hope they're okay, is because I'm in the sport of it, which creates no envy and no anger. It's just the sport of it. So when it's over, AKA if I see them in public, I'm not a douche like I see a lot of people being to each other. I could be like daps at the end of the game. How's Sarah? How's your husband, John? I wanted to get you that time. Good job. You beat us on the Kellogg's pitch. Fun, not fucking this disgustingness that gives business a bad name.
Right.
I'll tell you another thing. Now I'm going 5%. Can I give you another one? It also makes me a fair entrepreneur. I don't try to manipulate. I don't fuck with my taxes. I do the right thing because I'm not in it for the money. I respect the game more than I respect me. So when I lose, I'm actually like, good shit, entrepreneurship. You put me on my face. Good shit. The game got me. The market got me. I'm not in it for my selfish. I'm not in it for my trophies. I don't need trophies to show you. This is all about outside validation. I don't need to put another comma in my net worth. I don't need to put another 40 under 40, 50 under 50, 50 over 50. I don't need another fucking accolade. I don't need another blue check mark. I don't need another 1 million followers. I don't need anything. I'm in my own little fucking quiet cocoon of I'm playing my game, and I'm so fucking grateful that I'm playing my game. I don't give a fuck. It also creates no envy. Oh, this person killed it big. Let's go. Good for her. I'm proud of her. Just because she tripled me and she leapfrogged me financially on net worth, I don't give a fuck. I cheer for her. Go in your own cocoon, play for just the game. It makes it simple.
All right, man, I love it. So, okay, but let's go deep here, and I love how you're going 5% here. Thank you so much, Gary. This is amazing. You are driven by competition, is what I'm hearing. You're not driven by the accolades. You're not driven by the money. But let's go deeper here. Besides just winning for the sake of winning, what else drives Gary V? Is it legacy? Is it attention? What
Statues.
is it like? What's your why?
Statues.
Say it again.
Statues.
Statue.
How do you get a statue?
A statue of Gary V. A monument to
Of course,
Gary V.
but let me explain. Let me tell you why it's important, and people are going to misunderstand it. So I'm listening to this and the guy says statue and I'm like, well, this fucking ego, right? But they're missing the point. Let me explain what I mean by statue. Statues come after you're dead.
Right.
You know what I'm playing for? What people say behind my back. That gentleman who came up earlier and said you stood and shook everybody's hand that came to your talk and walked out. Do you know how nice that is?
Yes. And I've heard that about you a lot.
That's what I'm living for.
Being.
It's huge for me. It's huge for me. Do you know how nice it is to be respected by people that actually interacted with you versus do you know how many people in this chat right now didn't like me 35 minutes ago because I was brash or crass or cursed on LinkedIn or something? Like, I know it. And that's okay. I understand it. But what I care about is who really has met me, who has worked with me, who's actually interacted with me. And the way to get a statue as a human being is on admiration for truth. And I want to live a entrepreneurial career that was built around nobility and EQ and kindness. And I want to be the alpha who did it with nice and empathy and nice and like built others up and not tearing people down and like, I don't know.
No, I love it. That's perfect. A statue while you're living, a monument while you're living. How do you achieve that? And man, you're well on your way. And you know, people, I know I've heard people say that you're brash. I'm a huge fan, by the way, and I see how humble you are. Yes, you tell it like it is, but you are humble, you're generous, you show gratitude, you remember people. And those are just awesome human qualities to have.
It's because I know that if I disappear tomorrow, I'll get 12 hours of some love on social, some hashtag Gary V memories, and then everybody lives the next day. For me, when you know you're nothing, but you treat every day with the ambition to be everything, something very special happens. I'm out here trying to be the best that ever did it and liked for it. But I also know that I don't mean shit. I don't mean shit. I mean that. And when you know that and you pull from those truths in opposite directions, it creates a very different framework that I hope that inspires others to navigate. I take a lot of responsibility knowing that a lot of kids look up to me as an entrepreneur, and I'm trying to take these alpha men and women and say, it's not about the bling bling. There's no fucking watches here. It's not about the Rollies and the private jets. It's about the humanity that you deploy amongst the people around you. It's about the leadership of treating people kindly, even when they can't do shit for you. That's the legacy I want to meet.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful to know that you mean nothing, but act like what you're doing means everything, to have that ambition. That is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
So Gary, I have a couple of questions here from some EO members. Brad Stevens asks, you heavily advocate as entrepreneurs, we're constantly trying to get ourselves out of our business and automate and delegate everything, or at least we should be. But what are a few key functions that as an entrepreneur, you absolutely should never delegate?
Great question. So this is different for all of us. The answer is self-awareness. So for me, I'm a killer salesman in the final room, right? I'm incredible at PR. I'm really great at HR. So I have people for all this stuff, but I have my hands in new business, HR, and PR like a son of a bitch. On the flip side, I can give a fuck about finance. So I barely even talk to my CFO. So you don't delegate the things that you were born being special at. You build scale around it, but you never completely walk away from it. So this is different for all of us, but it's built on my favorite thing. If you are able to get to a place of self-awareness, humility, self-love, and the ability to not judge yourself, you will thrive in an uncomfortable way.
Love it. You know, we had Sarah Blakely on earlier, and she said something very, very similar. You focus on doing what you love in the business and you delegate everything else.
Truth.
But can you talk a little bit more about culture in a remote working world and how you manage culture?
This is where culture got exposed. Culture's been very easy to navigate in a virtual world. Culture isn't foosball tables and free cereal. Culture is, do you give a shit about people or don't you?
Right.
It's a big piece of cake. How? I mean, if you want to go to tactics, it's really funny. My answer is the actual answer. When you actually care, you create, 30-minute blocks for people to get breaks. You check in on people. You do random surprise Zoom meetings. You mix it up. You send this, you do that. You do, it's all about intent and execution, right? So to me, it's been a lot of communication, eliminating fear, letting people feel comfortable that they can talk about what they're struggling with. They can't get off of Zoom. They need some time to walk. We stood up a 1:37 p.m., 15-minute interview series every day to just break up everybody's 1:30 to 2, mandatory. You have to watch from 1:37 to 1:52. We have Shaq, Novak Djokovic, Arlen Hamilton. We've had all sorts of great people on, and just kind of doing rad shit, just trying to hack, trying to make them feel heard, cared for.
Mm-hmm. Right. Love it. Perfect. All right, I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit here, and we are going to talk about future opportunities, because I know you have your eye on the future. And this block is focused on energy. So we focus on what we should start doing. A lot of things we've talked about so far is what we should start doing in this new era. But what should we stop focusing our energy on right now? Because every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. But what should we stop doing in 2021?
We should stop doing meetings for an hour when they're actually 26 minutes.
Yes. Amen.
It was funny. Do you know what motivated me to give you that answer? You said when you say yes to something, you're saying no to, and my brain broke. You notice, I don't know if anybody saw, but I moved my head to the side. And I was like, why did that not land for me? I'm like, oh, right. I have 7-minute meetings and people have 45-minute meetings and do 7 minutes work. I believe that people in this room, reading the chat, kind of getting the vibe, getting the yeses that I heard in the background from you. I believe that everybody knows what I'm about to say is real. Every hour meeting is actually a 40 or 30-minute meeting. Every 30-minute meeting is actually a 15-minute meeting. Every 15-minute meeting, which most people don't even have, is really a text or a 2-minute phone call. We suck at being efficient with meetings.
All right. I mean, the work expands to fill the time allotted for it, right? So just shortening that time.
That 10-pound bag, 10-pound shit, facts. It's been my efficiency on time has changed. As now, after I've had a bunch of admins, people come through, because I didn't even know. I just lived my life trying to be as efficient as possible. They're like, man, this is it. And I'm like, what is it? And then finally I was like, oh, this is it. I don't do a 2.5-hour lunch for a fucking 36-minute meeting.
Right. Got it.
We should stop wasting time when we think we're busy just to make ourselves feel good. Get efficient as fuck.
100%. So Gary, I shifted these questions towards the end of our conversation because I know how passionate you are about NFTs right now. Anybody who follows you knows you are all over it with NFTs. So for people who don't know, would you give us a quick layman's third grade description of what NFTs are and why you're excited about them?
NFTs stand for non-fungible tokens. It's something of value that isn't equally in value, like 2 5s equal a 10 in currency. The blockchain has created an ecosystem where you're going to see servers set up to create digital assets and, more importantly, smart contracts. What you're seeing right now with NFTs, most of you are seeing are collectibles and art and assets, right? But what people are missing the point on, just like in the beginning of the internet, everybody saw search engines and eBay and Amazon and browsers. It was about Yahoo and Microsoft, Explore. That was the tech that got everybody excited. But what the internet really was a communication portal and many other things that we didn't see at the time. What NFTs are it's an infrastructure for the digitalization of everything. So for example, no music artist is going to sign a music label deal anymore because they're going to be able to use their fans to buy pieces of their contract, and they're going to have an upside. So you finding your favorite artist on SoundCloud you're going to buy 50 tokens, 50 NFTs for 1% of the royalties of his demo tape. And then when that person becomes the baby or Meg Thee Stallion and you're making money every day from the royalties of Spotify, you're like losing your money. Got it? You're going to buy your Atlanta Braves season tickets and it's going to be an NFT. And if you sell it on the secondary market, they're going to get a royalty of it, not StubHub. Like there's so much coming that nobody's talking about with NFTs. This is the digitalization of everything.
And how far out are we talking? How many years before this is mainstream?
This is mainstream now. That's why you're hearing about it. This has been going on for 4 years. What's mainstream right now is the collectible aspect. NBA Top Shot, CryptoPunks, Beeple's $69 million art. Yesterday, Tom Brady does an auto. It's mainstream now, but it's a bubble.
Huh.
So a ton of shit's gonna crash because right now everyone's buying shit that means nothing because it's a gold rush. But it's just like internet stocks in 99, 2000, and then everything crashed in 2000 and everybody thought the internet was a fad, but the internet was the most important technology that had come along in a very, very long time, probably since the personal computer. That's what's gonna happen with NFTs. A lot of the tokens are gonna crash, the shit that's out right now. So a lot of layman people are gonna be like, oh shit, that was a fad, that was Beanie Babies, I knew it, fuck that shit. Meanwhile, NFTs is the most important thing that's happened since social media.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
I know.
So now with that said, okay, so let's dive into that a little bit more. Give us a practical, tactical way that we can use NFTs in our businesses today as EO members. What can we do?
Let me give you an example. If you're a restaurant group that has 31 locations, you can launch a token for your restaurant group, have 10,000 of them made. It's called the Gold Restaurant Group, whatever. And everybody who owns that token gets a discount every time they come into any one of your restaurants. Has a guaranteed table at all times, anytime they come in. Has a this, has a that, is available, is given access by attaching their wallet to a Zoom to be able to watch exclusive content. The membership to EO is going to be a token because there's also that people that are going to see people's public wallets and see they're an EO member. Right now, when I see somebody in the world and I look at their Instagram, I don't know their EO unless they put it. But now in 10 years, just like you Google somebody or just like you look at somebody's Instagram once you first meet them, in 7 years, 10 years, everyone's gonna go to everybody's public wallet to see what tokens they have and be like, oh, you're an EO? I'm EO, what's good? Oh, you fuck with Roddy Ricch too? I fuck with Roddy Ricch. Like, people are gonna know.
I got it. That's awesome. And by the way, the CEO of EO is nodding her head vigorously as you say that. So it is definitely on the horizon for EO.
Because think about what will happen, right? Because then that token becomes social currency. It's a badge. It's like a blue check on Instagram. Got it?
Mm-hmm. Right.
When you have
I heard you say this before. It's a flex.
It's a flex, but then there's also utility. What happens with EO, because tokens are now used everywhere and read everywhere, goes to the Hilton group and says all EO members get a discount. And when I go to a Hilton, just because the EO token is on my phone, it's recognizing it and I'm getting a discount from my stay. All of a sudden, this organization with its membership is creating utility for me in the real world passively because it's reading my wallet. This is the biggest technology since social media. And right now, everyone just thinks it's JPEGs that are worth too much money because they're doing what people always do. The world sees something new and 98% says no. Because I'm in the 2% that says yes is why I'm winning.
Right. And this is what you did in the beginning with YouTube. You doubled down on it, you bet on it, you went all in, and you won the game.
I launched an e-commerce website in 1996 for a liquor store in New Jersey. People thought the internet was a fad in 1996. And then search, and then email, and then YouTube, then Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. And then, like, this is my career. I bought Bitcoin in 2014. I bought Ethereum in 2016. You know, I was yelling about TikTok and Snap. Like, this is who I am.
Right. You hear this, guys? You better listen to Gary. So we can learn about those NFTs. We can just YouTube it, do some research, and dive in. I've heard you say this before. Is there like one specific resource that you would give people to dive in and really learn more about NFTs on their own?
Well, you know, I own 137pm.com, 137pm, and I'm very scared to put out bad information. So we vetted all our writers. There's a ton there. But learn about the macro technology, the stuff I talked about here, not about the individual projects. Like, oh, Gronkowski did this, Mahomes did that, Brady did. That's where you can get caught. Be nice and slow, but understand the underlying tech, because it will matter in a very big way.
Got it, 100%. All right, so talking about new technologies, besides NFTs, what other technologies will be mainstream 10 to 20 years from now? What are you doubling down on?
VR. I'm obsessed with VR and AR. VR and AR, augmented reality and virtual reality. They're gonna tie in hand with NFTs, ironically. But if you have an Oculus 2, the new Oculus 2, the experience on that is remarkable. And so I think there's something, it's so funny. JP, I think, said, I bet on .tv domains, lost on that one. Me too, by the way. I was obsessed with .tv. I bought a ton of them. Lost heavy, JP. I think can't see, it's too small. But anyway, the reality is that I'm obsessed with VR and AR in a 10-year window. I'm also, just as an investor, very big on the evolution of quality around food and other products that are good for the environment. I'm also high on men's makeup, believe it or not. I think men's makeup is going to be a trend. A little left field one for you, just to get some of the creative juices going. Yeah. But the real answer for sure is I'm obsessed with VR. I think it's going to happen, but I think it's a little ways away.
Okay. All right. Okay. So our closing remarks here, Gary, I want you to take it away. You gave us this theme of practical optimism. What do you mean when you say practical optimism?
I believe that we live in a world right now of delusional pessimism, emotional cynicism. I believe that when I observe things that look happy, and I live this life as well as a human, that if you look carefully, the people that are really in a nice spot live in this framework of practical optimism. So they use optimism because life is how you see it, my friend. If you want to think the world is shitty, it's very easy to do that. But if you want to think it's awesome, it's very easy to do that too. You just have to look in the right places. You have to surround yourself with the right people, right? And so but optimism is a very confused word. Most people think optimism means delusion. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. You know, a lot of people people say to me, this is my favorite. They're like, Gary, we'll get into something, little chat, little debate, little something. And they'll be like, yo, gee, honestly though, Gary, I'm just keeping it real. I'm like, no, you're not. You're keeping it real negative. You're keeping it real cynical. You're keeping it real pessimistic. And everything I've observed carefully for the last 25 years, am keeping it practically optimistic. I'm being optimistic. However, I've always made payroll. I've never gone out of business. You'll never see me in a fraud or caught or this and that, because I'm practical, because I'm an operator. I'm a businessman. I don't let my emotions get the best of me. I don't get too high on my own supply. As a matter of fact, the more notoriety I'm getting, the more I'm becoming pushing. Like every day that my count goes up by 1 million followers, I feel myself becoming more humble. And then every time I feel it, when I can notice it, I'll call my mom and just say, you are the fucking queen of the world. Thank you for how you raised me. The fact that I feel the pressure of more notoriety, so that I have to, it's very natural for me to be kind and awesome, but I'm like fighting the accolades with like humility and like I can feel it. I'm so grateful for that. So for me, practical optimism. There is no reason not to be optimistic. Why? You're scared someone's going to trick you and your soft feelings are going to get hurt? When people show a lack of optimism, they're exposing their depths of insecurity and fear.
Well, coming out of what we're coming out of, could a person argue that, hey, I'm just being overly cautious here? Should we have our guard up a bit coming out of 2020?
I think that's where practical comes in. I don't think we should over have our guard. You know, I have a lot of deep conversations with a lot of people around a lot of social issues and business issues. I'm like, look, can you show me an example of someone that looks like you that is winning happiness? And the answer is yes, they can. And so it begs a very simple question, which is, if that's true, doesn't that then eliminate the macro pessimistic point of view? Life is what you see where I'm going? And these are powerful conversations. And so, look, I think everybody should protect themselves. I actually think the way to protect yourself is through practical optimism, not cynicism. Because when you're up on cynicism and skepticism, you're saying no. And when you get to a place where you're not worried about someone's affirmation, well, then they can't let you down because you didn't come in with exceptions. I don't come in with expectations. Lack of entitlement, bro, lack of entitlement leads to the greatest path to happiness that you'll ever see. Practical optimism. I'm very passionate about it.
I love it. I love it. And those two words just sum up to me. I agree with you 100% where we should be focused now. So here we are. So last question for you, Gary. And I just want you to give us your final words of wisdom. Here we are in second quarter 2021. What words of wisdom do you have for the EO global audience?
I believe that self-awareness is the greatest and most important conversation on earth. Period. I would ask everybody to leave this tonight, go to the mirror and literally look themselves in the face. And for one time, if you have to turn on the shower, cool. But one time, just look at yourself and say, this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm bad at. And when you say the things that you're bad at, remember that I'm almost bad at everything. And so is every other human, including you. When you start not judging yourself for what you're bad at, and when you start cheering for yourself what you're good at, but you're really, 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 really talking to yourself, right? Like really talking to yourself, just you, not your therapist, not your best friend, like yourself. I'm really, 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 really passionate about self-awareness. I think it leads to incredible levels of happiness. Stop trying to win in business for anybody but yourself. I'll leave you with this. I don't know how many of you saw Rocky IV. Did you see Rocky IV, the one with the Russian Drago?
Oh, yes, classic, most definitely. Love it.
There's a scene that almost nobody ever references. I think it's one of the most important scenes in the history of cinema, where the fight's over and Drago grabs the mic and he basically says, hey, Soviet Union, I know that you guys thought this ring was a fight between Russia and America, USSR versus America. But I was in this ring fighting for myself, not for you fuckers. Yasibya, Yasibya, I was in it for me. And I was a child when I saw that in the movie theater. And to this day, I bring it up here as my final point to an emotional and exciting chat. If you can get into a place of running your entrepreneurial career and your life for that matter, for yourself, not for other people's judgments or validations, how they score you, where you stack against him or her. Yasi, do it for you, inside of you, all the things that you want to happen on the outside will happen, all of it. So put your 2 index fingers in your ears, tune it all out, and do it for your process, which will then allow you to be incredible to everybody around you.
Gary V, wise words, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing your time with the EO community today. Let's give Gary a round of applause.